So I recently spent about 3 weeks in Ukraine. I started in the western city of Lviv, which is close to Poland. And from Lviv, I traveled to Kiev, the capital. And then I traveled to Kharkiv, which is in the east of Ukraine. It's about 30 miles from the Russian border. And so as this trip continued, the experience got more and more intense. I'm going to have full videos about Kiev and Kharkiv, but first I wanted to talk a bit about what the experience was like entering the country, the first people I met, and what I learned from being in Ukraine during the time of war. So I flew to Warsaw, and I wanted to spend a few days in Warsaw just to mentally prepare and also to hopefully meet some Ukrainians living in Poland. There's over 1 million Ukrainian refugees now based in Poland. My country, Canada, fun fact, used to have the most ethnic Ukrainians outside of Ukraine itself, and maybe Russia, but outside of that region, we had the most. And now it is actually Poland. They've surpassed us because they've taken in so many Ukrainians. So yeah, I wanted to go there, meet some Ukrainians, meet some people I've been helping. What I underestimated is when I get there, because I don't speak Ukrainian or Polish, so it's a bit hard for me to distinguish who is who. But I did manage to meet some Ukrainians. I met 2 young women who were wearing Ukrainian flags, and we started to talk.
What are you doing today?
Today we have a charity organization because our Ukrainian soldiers suffer every day, so we decided to help them anyway. And so now we collect money for Ukrainian support.
And you are from Ukraine?
Yes, we are from Ukraine, from Mykolaiv and from Zhytomyr.
So I don't know the whole country. What part of Ukraine?
Mykolaiv is in south of Ukraine and Zhytomyr is central.
Center. Close to Kiev or no?
Yeah, close to Kiev. It's 1 hour, right? I didn't trust his name? Yes. 1 hour by car from Kiev.
Why did you move to Warsaw?
Because now it's the war in Ukraine and my city is so dangerous, so I decided to study here in Warsaw, in university. So I've been dreaming about studying in Kiev, but now it's not possible, so we're in Warsaw.
Is your family here?
Yeah, we live separately, but my family is in Warsaw too. But as soon as war ends, my family is gonna come to Mykolaiv.
Do you think the war will end soon?
I don't know, but I hope so. Every Ukrainian hopes so, but we don't know.
What is your favorite thing about Ukraine? What is something you love about your country?
I think our culture, because it's so special and unique.
Could you ask the same question, maybe to help?
Что для тебя самое уникальное в Украине? В Украине, да. Давай что другое, я не знаю, как сказать на английском. I think it's our people, because only our people are like relatives for all of us, and we are so similar, and we support each other. In addition, due to the war, we became like one family.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
We have many Ukrainians in Canada.
Yeah, I know. My friends moved to Canada today.
Today?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
In the morning. Okay, thank
Good
you
luck
very much.
with
Have a nice day.
Right after seeing them, I saw these Polish girls who were about the same age, and they were filming a dance video. And the contrast of those 2 scenes was just stunning to me. Not to imply that Polish people are oblivious to the plight of Ukrainians or anything like that. Just the way that just where you happen to be born, this side of the border or this side of the border, you are raising money to help save soldiers for your country that's fighting for its existence, or you're filming, But anyway, as I was saying, Polish people have been helping in a lot of ways. Some of the ways they've been helping I found out about in the hostel that I was staying. So imagine you're working at a hostel and your job is to tell backpackers from around Europe the cool bars to go to and the museums and the entry times and all that. And suddenly the war starts and all of the Ukrainian refugees are entering your city who have just left their home. They don't know where to go, what to do. And your new job is to help people in those situations. And I got to interview a woman named Paulina, who is originally from Belarus. She's now living in Warsaw. She was able to help a lot, and she had some stories to tell.
It's not only Ukrainian war, it's all country war, because because all countries are united anyway, and we need to help each other. Oh, actually, I remember one guy came here in the hostel in my shift, and I was talking to him, and he was from Mexico, and after he went to the war in Ukraine, and I was asking, you're fighting for Ukraine, but what was the main motive for going to the Ukraine, not staying in the Mexico and stuff, because he's soldier. So, and he said that today we help Ukraine, but tomorrow Ukraine will help us.
You know, I imagine there were more of those stories in early 2022, but even when I was there, which was late 2022, this was a couple months ago now, there was a guy from a small town in France who had never left France before, and he was there. He flew himself to Poland to try and help Ukrainians.
Ok, YouTube. Ça, c'est mon nouveau ami Marvin de la Sud de France.
Bonjour,
Where are you going right now?
I'm going to Krakow, and quand je vais arriver à Krakow, après je vais aller aider les Ukrainiens, donc je suis grave content.
Ouais.
Je vais faire du volontariat et de l'humanitaire, donc vraiment très content.
It's a good thing you are doing. It's a good thing you are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, he said that his grandfather was part of the French resistance during World War II, and he just had that spirit. He had that feeling of we need to help Europe in any way that we can. But of course, this story is about Ukraine, and I'm going to travel into Ukraine now and show you what that was like. But I just want to acknowledge the great role that Poland has played. Anyway, so I headed for the bus station, and I was on my way there when I came across this warming tent, a kind of welcoming tent for Ukrainians. Looks to be a little station. I was rushing to the bus station to buy a ticket because there's a bus leaving, I think, at 11, and it's already 10:35. But I had to stop here for a moment to show this spot. This is obviously like an arrival station. You can say that's the bus station. Here's a tent. Here's an example of what's been set up in Warsaw for people arriving from Ukraine. So this is beautiful. You can see children's books, toothbrushes, sanitary items here. Hopefully this needs no translation. Now, as I said earlier, I don't know anyone in Ukraine, but I was introduced to one or two people beforehand. And one guy, this guy Joe, I was told we have a mutual friend who said, Dan, if you're going to Ukraine, you got to meet Joe. He lives in Lviv. He's an American journalist who's been there throughout the entire war. He hasn't left once. And he's been doing radio reports daily back to this radio station in Chicago. He's like, Joe Lindsley, you got to meet him. Interesting guy. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe we'll meet for a lunch. Maybe I'll get some tips for my trip. Joe ended up being the most amazing human being ever. As you're going to see, we actually traveled to different cities together. He is starting a new life in Ukraine. He started a website called Ukrainian Freedom News. And he is just, I'll let Joe take it from here.
So a moment ago, I introduced, this is Joe Lindsley.
Okay, great.
Joe, you've been here for how long?
I got stuck in Ukraine when the pandemic started, so March 2020. But here in this room, the first hours of the war, we made this into our headquarters, Ukrainian Freedom News. We're in the walls of an ancient monastery, and these walls, the Ottoman Turks tried to invade Lviv, and they failed to do so. So there's a lot of great history here. The monks have also kept an eye on us, and so this is sort of the story, the heart of Ukrainian Freedom News.
Quite symbolic, staying in a place that represents a failed invasion. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so these walls once again have that great symbolism, and but the spirit of and actually through the staff and everyone here, I've learned so much about Ukrainian traditions and the way it's a very communal society, and there's always even during air alarms, we're always joking and keeping each other's spirits up. So Pani Or, Pani Maria, Andrei, many others who are coming and going. And that's the same spirit I saw at Ukrainian Christmas. It's, in the darkest days of the year, Ukrainians are singing and dancing, and that is sort of the secret to the mentality that's enabling Ukrainians to move toward victory. I would call it cheerful defiance in the face of absolute darkness. You'll meet some of these people today.
I love the guy on the accordion. So good.
Ти ж можеш вивчити?
Яка твоя улюблена пісня Різдво?
Joe also introduced me to the team at Lviv Now, which is an English and Ukrainian language newspaper.
Last year we did the first bilingual edition, and then you can find it in hotels and restaurants in Lviv.
Really
During
cool.
the war, we realized there were so many foreign journalists here who knew nothing about Ukraine or Ukrainian history, especially the recent history.
So this
of Ukraine.
provides the context to understand a bit what you're getting into.
Yeah, well, so we would try to, for example, like put Ukrainian voices. So they would say, "Oh, here's the top Ukrainian rock star who's also a philosopher and a physicist." The reporter sees us in a bar, says, "Oh, I want to interview this guy." And then we would have, we invited people from Reuters and the AP, BBC. They came to the studio to interact with top Ukrainian voices. And but my favorite thing that their Taras and his wife Svilana and the team, their media, my favorite thing that they do, the centerpiece of it are public forums. So they invite whatever is the biggest debate in any given moment. They invite all the stakeholders into this room. You have politicians who disagree with each other, the citizens affected by their decisions, and they have to sit here and figure out a solution.
So this is
People agreeing instead of disagreeing. What a novel concept.
Yeah, they have no choice. Sometimes the politicians are like they're forced to go because it's so popular. But
we just had our recent public forum on last Friday.
What was the topic?
It was about mobility in Lviv, about transport, because now city is getting overwhelming with people,
With refugees,
etc. And cities doing not too much with that, doing something, but not too much. And we invited, so not all the people from the city hall came in time, but then we had, in an hour, we had an interview with the mayor in our studio. Andrei had this chance, and we could ask some questions. And this is a historical edition.
Incredible.
So this was the message that Joe was telling you,
So I'm looking.
about.
That's a very interesting date. Right before, right?
Indeed, it went. So it was designed, but it went to printer on 23rd at night. So the night before invasion. And we wanted to say loudly that Ukrainians will resist, because at that time no one believed. We had many conversations with already present foreign journalists here, or a week before the invasion, or 2 weeks with some diplomats. And we said with John, we said, okay, they need to know the truth, and we did it also in Ukrainian.
Oh, it's the two sides.
Yeah,
That's, I like how you do that. That's cool. Wow.
So I first came here. I was searching for a better way of doing media, and I didn't have any answers. I came here. I saw what these guys have made with their public forums. I said, "This is the solution." And then I returned here. You guys were hosting a conference with Ukrainian Catholic University on journalism and media. You invited me to speak. I flew from Stockholm the first day of March 2020. And I plan to be here for 2 weeks. We gave the talk, we collaborated, talked about some ideas, the borders closed, and I'm still here.
What is something you love about Ukraine or the Ukrainian people?
Of course, I love Ukraine very much, and not only because I was born here, but also because no matter what Ukraine has come through in the centuries of our long history, we've been always keeping strong and always keeping joyful.
What I like a lot about Ukraine is probably like the diversity of the country, how different. So the country is very big, the biggest in Europe. And if you take like a look at our cities, our biggest cities like Lviv, where we are currently. If you like take a look at Lviv, at Kiev, at Kharkiv, and at Odessa, they're all like completely different. Or like at Dnipro, which is also very big and a very cool city. And the idea of Ukrainian identity that is like sort of inclusive. So in some way, so you, like in order like to be Ukrainian, you just have to accept that you just have to like make a choice. Like it's based on your choice. So you choose to be Ukrainian.
So people from different ethnic backgrounds live here,
Yes.
and if you accept Ukraine, you are
Yes.
Ukrainian.
Yeah. For instance, there's like Crimean Tatars nation who were like originally from Crimea, and I really like. And they're a Muslim nation, and I like that how is like the interaction between like the Ukrainian nation and the Crimean Tatars, like two completely different cultures, but they are like sort of united as well, like and support each other like in this whole thing.
So a very interesting day so far in Lviv. Talked to a few people, heard a bit about the situation here. I mean, the levels to this reality are slowly beginning to dawn on me. Right now we're seeing another level of the reality, which is the limited power situation. There are still power cuts throughout Lviv from attacks which took place yesterday.
It's not total. You can see some places still have light, but other buildings do not.
That's a restaurant. People eating by candlelight. But it's certainly not breaking the Ukrainian spirit. As I hear, when people lose power in their home or their business, they just go somewhere else and take a cafe, go to a restaurant that does have power, a power generator. So it's not stopping the life on the streets, as you can see.
Life continues here in the west of Ukraine.
Lviv, the city itself, hasn't been hit by any Russian missiles. Now, there are power cuts. Like, the power situation is uncertain. And some of the suburbs, the greater city, have been hit. And so it's still, this is a country at war. Like, nowhere is entirely safe. But because it's so far from Russia, it's getting a way less attention than other places to the east, to the south, and all that, even Kyiv, the capital. And so Lviv is a relatively safe spot where a lot of people, refugees within Ukraine have moved there. Volunteer groups are based. It's a city where people are resisting and helping other more devastated areas as much as they can. And the group we're about to show you next, this is an organization that has been helping children who have had to flee their homes and start new lives in Lviv to kind of heal through artwork, provide a space where they can do something creative, meet other kids their age, and just like do something together. That's the organization I luckily had the chance to film with as well.
So I'm here with Tatiana. Could you tell me a bit about where we are today?
Yeah, so today the life brought us to the great place which is called Svity. English is going to be like the Bright. It's a camp and / like psychological support center for the displaced children who are, to our mind, is one of the most vulnerable population and are the most impacted by this war.
And what inspired you to get involved in something like this?
So probably it's because of my nature being Ukrainian. I would say that being Ukrainian means being brave, and I couldn't just stand behind everything that's going on right now, and wanted to bring my contribution to this situation. And since I'm a neuroscientist and I know how our brain works, and I know how to help children in terms of like psychological support and how to influence even like their perception, because regarding the war, obviously their perception is impacted, and for the kids who are not formed yet, for them it's really hard to perceive what's going on and to understand that this reality is really true. That is why it's critically important to provide them a safe space, to have a feeling of the home, even though they are far from their home. That's our aim, that's what we are doing.
I paint his beard red.
Ah. Where did you learn your English? Very good.
Thanks.
Where are you from?
Donetsk Oblast. Like in the east.
In the East.
Oh wow.
Ah, okay. You learned English from your school, from your
Yeah.
family? School.
School, yeah.
Oh, cool. I like it.
So I was trying to make a silly joke. I was telling the guy organizing this, I was like, oh, that one looks like Santa Claus. And then he was like, it is. This is actually St. Nicholas, the guy who Santa Claus was based after. I don't know why you guys watch these videos, but it is not for the historical knowledge, because I definitely do not have that. I tried my best, you know. So from a friend, I just saw a little TikTok clip that shows a bit of the Ukrainian humor during these difficult times. A video showing what happens after a power outage, everyone desperately trying to get everything charged and praying that the power will stay on. I recently asked a Ukrainian woman if she is afraid of nuclear attack, if she thinks that that's a realistic possibility at this time. She kind of thought about it for a bit, and then she replied, I don't know, but there's a lot of funny internet memes about the end of the world. Ukrainian humor is carrying on.
Difficult times make us more concentrated on something, like on our final purpose, you know, because I think each person in our country wants the victory of our country, because our country didn't start this war.
Yes.
We are fighting for our homeland. We are not aggressor. We are not going to the other countries. We are simply want to save our houses, our home, and live in a fully democratic and country that has a great potential to the future development. I think it's the main purpose. Victory and future. Each Ukrainian now looking for a future, looking for a victory.
Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot too much here, Joe.
It's all right.
Joe, you're preparing right now for a work commitment. You want to say a few words about what it is you've been doing here, what you're about to do?
Sure, man. Yeah, I've been fortunate. Every weekday since February, I get about 5 to 10 minutes to speak to Chicago WGN Radio. It's been an amazingly loyal audience. It's sort of a lifeline for me, because I know that there is someone listening to what's happening here. And because we speak every day, I'm able to talk about the history and the culture and personal stories. And
Well, I got to say, and hopefully not embarrassing you too much by saying this, but like Joe has really made the effort to, I mean, you know a lot about Ukrainian culture. You've been here a couple of years now, but like, you know the history, you're learning the language, not the way some people learn a few phrases and then stop. Like, you're having conversations with Ukrainians, so like the way you've integrated into the society is beautiful. And I think anyone who really wants to get a deeper look at the conflict and get some real information, Joe is a great source. And maybe you could shout out like where someone can find the radio reports.
yeah, Dan, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You can go to our website, UkrainianFreedomNews.com. It's a team of Americans and Ukrainians and other volunteers, and we put all of our radio episodes there. The same struggle for freedom that we see happening now in Iran and China happened here in 2014, and I was so captivated by that when this war started, I said, I gotta stay for victory. So it takes a toll, and especially these past weeks where we have significant difficulties throughout Ukraine getting heat and power as the winter sets in. A few days ago, I stopped in a cafe here in Lviv, and the bartender had a big coat on inside, and he was sick. He couldn't even talk because he has no heat or hot water at his house. And so you see the impact at these sort of micro levels. On the other hand, you see great defiance. And for example, my friend Yaroslav, he owns a jazz club in Odessa, and he wrote on Facebook over the weekend, the Russians have trained us out. The power is too small. Instead of fear, we have immunity. Because with each of these attacks every week, it is very difficult, but Ukrainians are learning how to survive with limited electricity. And so he said the complete blackout of Odessa doesn't scare anyone anymore. Everyone walks around and continues working like nothing is happening.
I met so many interesting people in Lviv. Some of them I filmed with, some of them I just hung out with. But one other person I did get a chance to film with is another volunteer, another Ukrainian volunteer who, I asked him what he loves about this country, and he gave, I think, a very, very profound answer.
What do you love about Ukraine?
I think that a couple of things, not only one. The first, it is the peacefulness. So I know, so we know how to fight, because I told you that we have the war for a couple of centuries on our land, but like the peacefulness is in our blood as well. We are the warriors by chance. I don't know how to say it. Also, the sense of freedom, as I told you, the dignity.
So maybe someone is watching this who is going through a difficult time. They are struggling to find peace. You are living through war and still you manage to find peace. How do you find peace in your life?
I think that it's a damn good question. It's so good and hard question. First of all, I had a couple of breaking points during this big invasion from Russia. So first, when the invasion started, I went to the recruiting point, and I knew that I can die, but I understood that this is the right thing to do. And being myself for me is more important in any situation than, I don't know, than die. And being ourselves is the most important probably in our life. And the second is that when you how Russian army treated civilians in other wars, so we knew what to expect after Russian army retreats. But when these terrible atrocities were discovered after they retreated from Bucha, Irpin, and it's not only there, it's everywhere where they retreat. It was maybe one of the hardest moments in my life, because the wave of hate and anger was so huge that I spent maybe 2 days to fight against it, like not to fight against it, but to accept it and to keep doing what we do, not because of the hate, but to the Russians, but because we love our country and we love these people. So this is actually what I can share. I don't know if it is the solution, but being myself and stick to love, probably these are two most strongest things.
And so what did I learn from all this? Well, the main thing I learned is that there's the war, and there are the soldiers who are fighting for the freedom of their country, who are heroes and deserve all our respect for anyone who is in a democratic country, fighting to preserve that sense of freedom and the identity of your country. These people are absolute legends. And there are the medics and the journalists who are going to the front lines who also deserve nothing but respect. But also, even far away in the West, there are people who are helping in whatever way they can. Even across the border in places like Poland, there are people helping. There are people coming from far away, places like France and Mexico and the United States and all over. Not even always knowing why, just compelled by feeling to help. I think that feeling is very important to hold on to. And I think that feeling is also a large part of why Ukraine is being so successful, resisting Russian aggression. What I learned is war is not just fought on the battlefield. War is fought in the souls of everyone who is there, helping. The girls walking the streets, raising money, even from the other side of the border. The local journalists in Lviv who are dedicated to telling stories of resistance. The volunteers who are working with kids who are learning artwork and trying to build a new sense of community in their new home. The people like Joe who have adopted Ukraine as like a second home. And we're going to see more examples of that as this series continues. But I wanted to start here with the story of Lviv, the story of Poland, the story of everyone who has that love in their heart and wants to help in little ways that they can. Because I think it's an important part of the story of Ukraine, which I'll be sharing more about very soon as we visit Kyiv, the capital. Don't forget to check the description and beside for ways to donate, ways to help. Always appreciated. See you soon.